Welcome to the Sling and Sauce Podcast with your hosts, Matthew Winrick and Adam Phillips, professionals in the exterior cleaning space, bringing you like-minded, successful business owners in the exterior cleaning and home services area. Let's get to it.
What's up, Sling and Sauce Podcast? It's your host, Adam, here with my awesome, amazing, esteemed co-host, Mr. Redbeard himself, Mr. Red Moose, exterior cleaning, Matthew Winrick. How you doing today, Matt?
Doing well. How are you doing today?
Man, we are rejuvenated and ready to take on another year, and we are coming to our listeners about a week into the new year. Super excited for what 2025 has to bring, and super excited just to talk about, how last year went and how this year's going to go. And so, man, I'm excited. Are you ready?
Let's get to it.
I'm pumped, dude. I'm ready for this year to do exactly what we did last year, which was just dominate. I feel like that's. We both had great successes in our businesses last year, so I'm just ready for it to continue on to 2025. One of my networking groups kind of had the perfect saying, let's thrive in 25.
Thrive in 25. I heard thrive in 24 as well, but it doesn't rhyme as well. So thrive in 25 sounds really good. I like that. To get started, man, let's just kind of go back. I mean, January 2024. What were you planning to do in 2024?
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily revenue numbers or anything, but did you have any goals that you were trying to accomplish or achieve that you feel like you did, or you might have missed by a mark, or what's kind of, because you've been kind of reminiscing the last couple of weeks. I know when we were on the cruise, we kind of talked about it while we were smoking cigars on the seaside. And so just kind of, what's some of the things that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, the first one is definitely creating more time for me and my family. So that was obviously goal number one, and it was done. Check, box checked. And it wasn't from the lack of work. It was from actually scheduling the time off and doing it. So it wasn't like, hey, I was like, we have some spare time because I'm not busy. It's, hey, I'm designating this time to go and spend time with my family. So I think there's a big difference between the two, not just capitalizing on the fact that you're not doing anything, but, cutting that time out and making yourself do it.
I feel like that's awesome, because that is one thing that we failed to do a lot of. And I know that you did a podcast last year where you had Mr. Plata and Starkey on, and you guys talked about vacations and how important it was, and how important it is in your business. And what's funny is after that, we went on 4 or 5 trips this last year. And what's interesting is, as the wife and I were sitting there the other day and we were talking about it, we were like, what really contributed to our success that we had this year? Because we grew our business 70 or 67% in revenue.
There it is.
And so it was awesome. But we're like, what really contributed to that? Well, what we looked back and saw was, like Starkey said, every 2 to 2.5 months, we were off for 4 or 5 days.
Yep.
And it was, April, we did a cruise with her mom. February, we did something for my birthday. June, we were in Colorado for 5 days. In August, we were in New York for 14 days. In December, you and I went on a cruise.
Whoop, whoop.
December, normally a slow month for me. December was one of our bigger months because it was our biggest month in 5 years, even though we were gone for a week. It's crazy to think about, but what people don't understand is they're like, it's my business. I got to grind, go 24/7. But when you don't take that time down, or that time to relax, you burn yourself out, or you go, I'm doing the same thing every day and nothing's changing.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have time to step back, take a couple of days and reflect, you get back and you're more motivated than ever. And so it's kind of like a mini reset every 12 weeks. You know?
The thing that kind of reminisces with me is when I had Dan on, one of the things that he said was, when you're on your deathbed and you've started to look back on your life, you're never going to be like, hey, you remember that day that I made $1,000? Remember that day, that extra day I went out and made a couple $100? I'm not saying everybody's situation's the same. Sometimes you need to grind to pay the bills, but I'm saying that if you have the opportunity, you're going to remember that vacation with your buddy that you went on, or time that you spent with your family more than you are
100%.
making a few extra dollars.
Well, and see, like, that's part of why we own a business, right? So we have that flexibility. We have the ability to take that time off. And what I noticed, which I thought was really cool, is as we were getting up to each time that we knew we were going to take time off, we were already booking for the week we got back. And instead of normally doing like one or like 2 or 3 house washes a day like we normally did, we were booking 4 to 5 in a day because we knew we were going to be gone for that week. And so we were having larger revenue weeks by working it into and in between the different trips that we had.
It makes sense. So instead of having, 4.5 days full of work, or maybe 4 days full, and you're kind of like spreading it evenly throughout 5 days, what you're doing is you're like, all right, we're going to condense, we're going to call
a week and a half
days.
into a week.
We're going to condense 20 days worth of work into 15.
Exactly.
And actually condense it, not just be like, hey, I'm going to get out at 10 and I'll be done by 4. No, start at 8, go until 6, and do that for 15 days versus starting later and ending earlier for 20.
Exactly.
So
100%.
There's ways that you can go about it. And I know that we had some guys that we're going to probably reach out to that have perfected the art of the 9-month work period where they're done for like October hits, they're gone until January. Like they're just like, I do hunting, I do all this other stuff, but I make sure that like during the month, like the summer months, I am busy. I'm doing everything I can so that when the winter hits, I don't have to do shit.
We were talking about that, and like I was talking to my dad last night, and he was like, you should do Christmas lights. And I said, I've looked into that. I've thought about it. I have a friend that did it. This is his first year doing it. He did almost $300K in less than 2.5 months doing it for his first year, which is incredible. But I want to be able to have that downtime. Like the wife and I were thinking, like, we really appreciate the last month and a half that we got to spend time together to make up for the time that I was gone while we had the busy week or like the busy year. And also it's the holidays, man. People don't want you at their house cleaning.
Yeah.
People don't want you at your house doing stuff. And so if you are able to kind of finagle it and figure it out to where you save up enough and you can take from, like we were thinking, November 15th until January 15th.
Yeah.
Like 2 months. That's it. Or you could even go to February 15th because right now it's freaking 21 degrees outside. So it's going to be cold for the next 2 weeks here. We're expecting snow next week. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Snow.
And here's the other
Charleston
thing too. It doesn't have to be finite. Like if for some reason you're on your 2-month hiatus and then one of your commercial clients says, hey,
$40,000 job comes. Yeah.
Or no, just like a $10,000, like you were doing the car washes in December. And if somebody comes and says, hey, here's $17,000 to put onto the table, and it's a week's worth of work, yeah, you're going to take it. You don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to just say, well, no, I'm not doing work. You can be flexible. It's still your job. It just
allows you that time.
But if you forced it, then you know what you do? You take an extra week in January. Yeah. Like you just counterbalance that time out. It doesn't have to be. Everybody thinks it's either a binary answer. It's yes and no. Like if somebody comes to you and says, like, hey, could you take a look at this? Could you think you could get it done before the end of the year? I just need to get it off my budget. Shit, yeah, go look at it. You might be able to get it, an extra $3,000-$4,000 to help float you through the winter.
Oh yeah.
But when I think the big thing is when we're this small and we're just, it's just us or one other person, we can take that time and not have to stress and pay our guys or, find some jobs here and there to help subsidize. But you don't have to be balls to the walls to the end of the year.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah, I mean the biggest thing, man, is whatchamacallit. I was trying to think of a quote that someone told me, but I can't find it. Like you said, like you don't have to go balls to the walls in the wintertime. You can take that time to relax, spend time with your family, and also reflect on the year. How did you do? What can you do better next year? Start building your marketing plans. Start planning for the future that you plan to have. Going into 2025.
And we talked about this in previous episodes, but if you want to get into commercial, you have to talk to them the year before, especially on the large scale projects. Because if you're talking to them in March, asking about what they want to get done, they've
already got it scheduled.
they have it scheduled, or they don't have it in the budget, or
Correct.
or those other things, and it's just tough to get it to, like, the number that you want to make. Because I mean, if you say, hey, it's going to cost you $8,000 to get your complex washed, and they're like, well, we don't really have $8,000 in the budget. If you would have told them last year, like the parking deck that I cleaned is a good example for it. Marshall, somebody that we've had on the show before, he was like, hey, why don't you reach out and give them an estimate for I was like, what if I did just three floors?
Dirtiest
like
floors.
the high traffic floors. And I was like, three of the 6 floors. And it was a fraction of the cost, and they were actually a little bit more enticed by it because they knew how much it was going to be. They knew that it was going to need to get taken care of, and it helps just keep the aesthetics without going full blown, and give them some options. It doesn't have to be the same exact thing. If you know that they only park on the first 2, and it's a 6-story floor, ask them, hey, what if we just did the bottom 2? It's not a no, but it's showing that you are presuming this sale, and you can just easier to move forward.
I actually did the same thing on a apartment an office building we did in October. The lady was like, hey, go ahead and quote me for both buildings. And we did. And she goes, unfortunately, it's not in the budget this year. I said, well, what about this? What if this year I just cleaned the fronts of them because it was a lot of mold and mildew on the front of the entrances and stuff? Yeah. I said, what if this year we just do basically like 25% of the building or 30%? And instead of it being like 5,000 per building, it was like 1,600 per building just to do the front. And she's like, accepted immediately. She was like, let's go. And then she goes, next year I'm putting in the budget to do the whole building. Yeah. And so this year we've already got it on the books that instead of just making 3,000 from that job, we're going to be making 10,000 because we're doing it all again. Because she said the front needs to get done yearly. They just have never included that in their budget. Now that I was able to break it up and say, hey, every other year we'll do the whole building. Every opposite year we'll just do the fronts. Yeah. And she goes, that's amazing. I didn't know a company would do that. And I said, I got you. Yep. So
it's problem solutions. Yeah. It's don't create problems that you don't have solutions for, because it just makes you look like you're out of touch a little bit. You're just you're not setting expectations very well.
What is one thing you learned this year when it came to marketing?
Marketing. The one thing that I had I talked with Stephen Button for a little bit about trying to get more into commercial work, and it was like, lean to your strong suits. If anybody's ever met me in real life, I'm quite the character. I'm very loud, I'm very boisterous, and I kind of dominate conversations. That's why we also have a podcast. But I'm also a pretty good salesman when it comes to selling what I sell. So he's like, if you want to instead of trying to do cold calls, you need to get in front of people. Like, physically put yourself in there, whether it's you drive to the office and do this. So I've been leaning into that, and especially with my marketing stuff, and it's been paying off. I mean, I've gotten a lot more people referring me out, those kind of things. And I know it's something that we said, but play to your strong suits. Like, get on the phone, beat feet, all that stuff. So I didn't do a whole on online stuff this year, but we've already taken steps for that in the upcoming months.
I was going to say, one thing that I definitely want to mention that I learned this year is, even though you can grow your business and get to the point where you can afford online marketing like Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram, things like that. The one thing I learned this last year, man, is when I canceled my $3,000 a month marketing fee that I was paying to a quote unquote company, agency, whatever, and I started doing it myself. I started doing mandatory marketing days, 1 to 2 days a week. And I started doing networking. I know you started doing chamber networking, BNI networking, stuff like that. And my networking group, we actually looked back, it actually contributed to $35,000 worth of new revenue for us this year. Yeah. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the fact that it was $200 to be in the group for a year. And sure, it cost me an hour a week to go to that group. So let's just say $200, right? $200 a week times 52, whatever that comes out to, $10,000. I still made money off of it, right? Like, it took me out of the field for an hour a week, but it still made me more money than it would have if I were to invest into a marketing firm or marketing company. And so that's one thing I learned this year. The other thing I learned this year, man, is keep those relationships, those partnerships going. We built one last year that created like an additional 40K in revenue for us. And it was a painting company. And they already reached out this year and they're like, we have big plans this year and you're involved in all of them.
Yeah. And just
so
and just to
I
give
was
some
like,
people
yes.
some really shitty math. So you spent $200 and made 35,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fraction of a percent. It was 0.5% of what what you got back from.
That's crazy.
And you said you went to every single one and it was an hour long?
Yeah, I'd say I went to like 70% of them because I was too busy for some of them.
Okay, so let's just say, for the sake of it, we'll call it you went to 45 of them.
Okay.
Do you know what your hourly rate was at that rate?
No.
Divided by 44. $795 an hour is what you made going to those events. So this is where we kind of like segue it to where it's like the $20 jobs or $20 an hour jobs versus the $50 or the $800 an hour jobs.
Yeah.
Going to a networking meeting is that exactly. So people treat it like, I had an in-depth, like, it's so funny that we're talking about it today because I had an in-depth conversation with somebody today about the chamber event because they were like, she's new to the chamber. She was like, is it always like this? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, everybody's just like zipping cards at each other at the chamber. I was like, no. I was like, you will notice if you come habitual enough that there are people that they show up and they just, it's like they have a quota. They have 50 business cards that they need to give. And it doesn't matter if it's the same people that they've already given cards to before. But I was like, there's also people that come every week and they just, or every other week, and they get to know you on a personal level. I was like, those are the people that you need to get in touch with. I was like, those are the ones that are going to reap rewards for you, not the people that, you just pass business cards back and forth. So when we're talking about that $800 an hour, those are your opportunities to make it. Like, don't just go there and throw business cards because that's a $20 an hour job.
You can hire someone for that.
You can hire somebody to just go hand out business cards.
Yeah.
You can't teach them to, I mean, you can eventually, but to represent the company the same way you did. Gary
Build
Vee
the
kind of says
relationships.
Gary Vee said it the best one time where he was like, you will never have an employee that cares about your business as much as you do because they don't have the stake in it.
Agreed.
So when you go to these networking events, wear your business with pride. Like, that's why I wear the red glasses. I wear every single event that I go to, I'm swagged out in, Red Moose exterior stuff because I want them to know that this is my business. Like, I'm not going to sit here and like, oh, well, I'm going to stand in the crowd and people are going to know who the hell I am before I leave.
We learned that real good from Mr. Power Wash Man and Mr. Connor Cave because I remember when we were at the PWMCA 2 years ago, he walked in and we were like, who's that guy wearing a Superman cape? And he walked around and everywhere he went, man, everybody knew who he was. And it's because that's who he is. That's his brand. And I recently just saw that he got inducted into the giving awards for the local chamber where he's at because his company has given so much money to the local businesses, nonprofits, and things like that. And every single person in that entire crowd was wearing a Mr. Power Wash Man shirt. Like, that's how much he spreads his company and his awareness and his everything. And so, I mean, that's what you want to be, what everybody talks about. And what's funny is, like you said, you don't just want to take business cards in there. I walk in there and they're like, whoa, who's the one guy wearing hot pink in this entire room full of people wearing suits? Yeah. And I'm like, that's me. Hi.
I'm the soccer jersey guy.
I'm the guy.
Like, that's literally everybody thinks I'm wearing a soccer jersey and they're like, what team is that? And I'm like, it's my team.
My team. Exactly. Well, another question I had for you, man, is what are some sales things you learned this year? Like, I know you took a course on some cold calling. I want to talk about that. And then some other things as far as like, if you learned about how to land more commercial deals, if you learned about what are some, just like name one or two of them. What are two quick sales tips you learned this year that worked out really well for you?
One, the importance of the CRM. I already knew that it was an important thing, but don't love them and leave them. That's one. So if you've done work before, why would you not want to reach back out and ask if they're ready to do it again? Because you are the professional. So if you say, hey, it's been a year, it's about time for them to get it washed, they're going to most likely go with your opinion because you are the professional. So don't just say, well, I did it last year, so they'll call me again. Guess what?
Nope.
They forgot you.
They need to hear from you. Yeah.
They forgot about you because you know how many, like, I've done it. You've done it, Adam, where it's like you've had somebody come over and try to do something at your house or done something at your house. And 6 months later, you're like, what's the name of that company that one that we used 8 months ago?
We actually had a tree company here in February, and I was trying to tell a customer who they were. I was like, I don't know, and they haven't followed up with me, so I have no idea. But they said they were going to come back this year, and I'm like, well, what's your name? Like, I don't know who you are.
So that's exactly it. So it's like being the top of mind always, but also reaching out. So the good example of this is when I did the class, we had to reach out to 10 people, whether they were hot, cold, or we've done work with in the past. And it was, you have a 10 to 15% pickup rate. Like, that's just kind of like the rule of cold calling. Obviously, the numbers go up if you've done work with them in the past. But we had a 34% pickup rate amongst everybody that was in the class. And of the 34%, we had an 80% conversion into either a meeting, scheduled work, or Google reviews left. So it's like the number, like, think about that. If you consciously took it was like 20 minutes worth of work and did it weekly, that's 40 phone calls at the end of the month. And at a 30% pickup rate, you're going to, it's 40 into 30, you're talking about right around 8-9 phone calls that are going to get picked up.
Yeah.
If that's 9 Google reviews a month, just by making an hour's
go a
worth
long
of work.
ways. Yeah.
Like, that's so crazy. Like, that you wouldn't want to take that and the importance and impact you have of it, and call with intention too. Like, I think the other thing that I've really dove into is intent. So intention is kind of like the idea that I'm having for this year is, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it with intent. If I go to a networking event, what am I trying to do? I'm going to try to make 1 to 2 really good personal, like, because they're about an hour long. So 1 to 2 really good conversations and get to know somebody else in their business, or talk about my business to the point where they tell me to stop. Then when I go and I try to sell my product, I'm not going there to sell my product. I'm going there to fix a problem. What's the intent? Yeah. I'm there to fix a problem, and there is a price tag to it, but I'm not thinking about the bottom line. I'm thinking about how I can fix this problem with the tools that I have on my repertoire.
Okay. I like it.
Oh, how about what's yours?
I was going to say, so one thing that I learned, man, is leverage the relationships you already have. One thing is, I know we had 1 month where I was like, oh my gosh, we don't have anything on the books for the next week. Like, what are we going to do? And I reached out to my contractor, my painter, and a property manager. And all I said was, hey guys, it's a slow week for me. Do you have anything? And if you don't have anything, do you know anybody I can contact that might have something? Yeah. And what's funny is the property manager I reached out to, I said, hey, look, I know you have me clean these 2 properties every year. You probably have someone else that cleans 6 or 7 other properties for you. Are you happy with what they do? And I got a reply with, can you quote these 5 properties? I haven't heard from them in over a year.
Yep.
And I said, what? And so we quoted all of them, and we won every single one of them. And those are the properties that we are now going to be doing again this year, because I stay in touch with them, because I asked them if I could do more for them, because I said, hey, are you happy with what you currently have? And they said, well, they haven't been in touch in over a year. And I follow up every 3 months with them. The 3 months. I try not to be too much, because I know that some of their properties change. I know that they don't do cleaning all the time, but it's just one of those things. And so that helped me out. But then my painter even said, it's been slow for us as well, but here's what I would recommend. And he gave me some tips and pointers. And so I did those things, and it helped us get more jobs on the books as well. So leverage your current relationships, leverage the current people that you work with or work for, and that'll definitely help you out.
And the other thing about leveraging those conversations, have the conversation. It doesn't always have to be a sales pitch. Like, get to know them. If they have, like, you don't have to be obnoxious about it, where, do you have a family, all that stuff. Let it happen organically, but get to know them as a person. Be like, hey, remember last time you said that your wife was pregnant. Like, how's the baby? How's, parenthood? Is this your first or second child? Like, those kind of things. they resonate with people, man. Like,
Yeah.
there's a guy that I do we're trying to form a relationship because he's a roofer, and I'm in the gutter business too, so he's like trying to we're staying in touch. He stays out in Waynesville, and if anybody remembers, a big storm that went through there and just completely destroyed the entirety of the mountainous area in eastern North Carolina. He's not far from there, so like I reached out within the week because I shot a text to him and I didn't answer, and then I like called him after a week, and I was like, so I just wanted to follow up. You just had another child. You already had a 2-year-old, and I remember last time we talked, your wife had like bronchitis or some shit. So I was like, is everything okay? And he was like, bro, just thanks for calling. Like, that was literally it.
Yeah. No, that's freaking awesome. And that's why it's important to stay with them and then follow up with them, and even like stop by and take them cookies once every couple of months, or, just like you said, just reach out via phone call. So,
Yep.
Another question I have for you, Matt. Operations. What is one thing you learned in operations this year? One thing you're going to either keep the same, change, or make better? Ready, set, go.
Okay, so operations definitely going to get a flatbed. That's gonna change. It's gonna completely change the way that we go about our businesses and how we get onto job sites and continue to do them.
I think that'll go with my next question. So, what's something else?
As far as something that I'm going to stop doing,
like a systems or processes that you might change that helps operation wise.
Definitely. So I changed a chemical supplier, somebody closer to the house. So now that's going to cut down. I mean, it was almost 30 minutes to go out to the other chemical shop. So I found one here locally that's like literally 5 minutes down the road. So now I'm not going to spend an hour just going to get chemicals. So, I mean, 20 minutes versus
5 hours a week. Yep.
Or
4 hours a week. Yeah. That's one more house wash.
And it's cheaper too. So it's like,
there you go,
even crazier. So yeah, that's one thing that we're going to be doing. And they also found out they supply all the other chemicals that we need in our business too. So now I don't have to travel for each individual one. They have a hotspot. They have gutter butter, all that other stuff. So
awesome.
And
for
what
me,
about you?
I would say operations for me, man, is I learned how to do my own marketing and sales I learned how to do my own automations online. So follow-ups via email, text, phone list, ringless voicemail. And I also do about $1,000 a month now on everyday direct mail. And that has really helped us out as well. So with operation wise though, one thing I'm going to keep consistent is those postcards every month. One thing I'm going to change is I'm going to try to cut back on some more systems. I did cut 3 systems last year, which saved me about $500 a month. But I want to get my system costs down another $200 to $300 if I can. So that's what I'll be changing this month. And then last question I have for you, which I think you already answered, is equipment. What is some new equipment you got in 2024 that helped you out, helped you grow, helped you do bigger jobs? Yep. I know one of them, so we can talk about that. Mm-hmm. And then what is something you want to get for 2025 that you think will also help optimize your processes and systems and make your business better this year?
So the first part of it, so I actually got 2 large pieces of equipment, I would say, for the 2024 year. I upgraded my surface cleaner to a Mondo. So if anybody's ever used a Mondo, those things are just time savers. I went from a driveway taking around 30 to 35 minutes to 12.
5 minutes?
12. Yeah. Like it literally is a two car driveway is 12 minutes, start to finish. Then the second thing that I got was a hot wash. So it is a 10 gallon a minute hot wash.
It's getting hot in here.
And it does get hot in there. So just another thing that was the way that I sold it to my wife is it's a key that opens up a door to a new piece of business that I wasn't able to really bid after.
Do before, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can do it with chemicals, but it just feels like you're a little bit more trusted when you have the actual equipment that you need for it. So
I like that.
That was the 2 things. And then as far as equipment that I want to get, like I said,
flatbed.
A flatbed is going to be it. It's just, I'm looking at trying to bring on an employee in 2025. So by having a trailer, you really limit the potential workforce. I just kind of use the funnel as an example for it. It's like if you have 100% of your people that want to do the job, and then you say, who's physically able to do it, and then you kind of like that funnel gets a little 40, bit tighter.
Yep.
And then it's like people who can actually work outside and be okay. The funnel gets
30.
A little bit tighter.
Yep.
And then you're like people who can drive a 17-foot trailer, and then it gets really, really, really narrow.
to
and
10.
it just kind of, and now you're actually going to be paying more because they're going to have multiple skills that you're paying for, not just the ability to do the job.
I love that. I love that. For me, man, same thing. One thing we're working on this year is off the truck. And then number 2 is adding a second truck. And by the end of the year, I'm hoping to have 2 new trucks that are identical. And working with a coach this year. We started a coaching program about a month ago, and that's something that we're hoping to expedite. And then last question I have, man, for both of us is going to be, what is a revenue growth percentage you hope to have this year? You don't have to say numbers, but like, for instance, for me, I want to grow by 50% this year.
65 to 70.
Damn. Okay. I like it.
It's because we did it last year. I'm not as established as you are in your current area. So my goal is, and the other percentage that I would like to change is the commercial to residential. Right now we're still really close to like a 50-50. I want to be closer to a 75-25 for commercial to residential.
Cool. I love it. Awesome, man. Well, this was a fun, quick podcast that hopefully our listeners can take. And
we have one last thing to do before we get out of here.
What's that?
What's your quote of the day?
Some will, some won't. So what? That's something that, actually, no. Can I go back?
Yeah.
Here's my quote. Here is my quote for this year. And this is something I shared with a young man that I met back in November. And we're going to have him on the podcast here shortly. But this is something that really, really just sparked and ignited an internal flame in him. And he had the biggest month he has had in the past 5 years in his business. And this is what it was. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
If you can become 1% better every single day, 1%. 1%. Do one more phone call, one more email, one more knock, one more door hanger. Do 1% better every day and see what that does for you in the next 30 days. And then what I want you to do is look back and say, wow, and look at what you did with that 1%. Because what he did is I told him, I said, start with knocking 10 doors. I said, by week 2, you'll be knocking 20. By week 3, you'll be knocking 50. By week 4. And he got to the point where he was doing 500 to 1,000 houses a day. And got to the point where he made more revenue in 30 days than he had made in the past 2 years in his business. So Make yourself 1% better every day. And the reason I say that, man, is I was listening to a book called Your Best Year Ever. Okay. And the book talks about setting up to where you have the most incredible year every single year, right? The January 1st for a lot of people is a quote unquote reset. It's a new year, right?
Yeah.
Well, most people, they try to get 10% better every year.
Yeah.
That's it. But if you do 1% every day, you try to become 1% better every day, whether it's one more rep in the gym, one more door hanger, one more email, what happens is at the end of the year, you just made yourself 365% better, which means you made yourself, almost 100 times more successful than the average American. Yep. So there you go. 1%, guys. Just remember that 1%. What I think I want to challenge our listeners to, Matt, is since this is going to be one of our first podcasts of the new year, I want everyone to sit down, and I want you to look at every 12 to 14 weeks, taking at least 3 to 4 days off and spend time with your family or friends or go on a trip and do not do anything business related. Because that's what really grew our business this year. So
and again, that goes to the 6 P's. Proper planning prevents piss poor performances. So by scheduling that time off, now you can schedule all the things that come with it. So while, and I'm not going to speak from previous years, but I know what Adam did really successfully this year is while he was on vacation, things were still in motion while he wasn't here, whether it is a marketing strategy, planning out your social posts, all that stuff. Like, I mean, I think at the beginning of the year, you were even having VAs reach out to, some of your commercial clients. Like,
well, I have a guy doing emails, and we did, 2,000 emails the week we were on our cruise.
Yeah. So that's where the 6 P's come into play, where it's like, if you just say, all right, I'm going to stop everything and you're not going to have any contact to the world for, 5 or 6 days, you might take a little bit of a hit when you come back.
Yeah.
But if you plan and you say, hey, I'm going to come out and I'm going to come out strong, and I'm going to
you get back, you'll be so rejuvenated and ready to go that you'll want to have a busy week.
Yes.
So.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So I appreciate it, guys. We look forward to catching you on the next one, and let's thrive in 25.
Whoop, whoop.
Peace.
Peace.